Welcome to the Business Smart Session podcast, brought to you by Pyrus.co. This is your go-to spot for practical tips, expert insights, and smart strategies to grow your business. Whether you're a startup founder, a seasoned entrepreneur, or just business curious, there's something here for you. Let's dive in.
Okay, so you know how sometimes providing top-notch customer support, really going above and beyond for your customers, it can feel like a constant uphill battle.
Yeah, totally.
And then there's the cost, right? It can get really, really pricey.
Definitely a major consideration.
So for this deep dive, we're going to look at something that a lot of businesses are turning to, and that's outsourcing customer support.
Outsourcing, yeah, it's a hot topic for sure.
We've got a really, really interesting article here. It's called Outsourcing Customer Support, Elevating Service Quality While Reducing Costs. And I think the title kind of says it all, right?
It really does. It hits the nail on the head.
And that's what we're going to dig into today. Can you actually provide amazing customer service without breaking the bank? Can outsourcing be the answer?
The million-dollar question, right?
It really is. And I'm curious, from your perspective, have you ever felt that kind of tension? Wanting to give your customers the best support possible, but also having to be really, really mindful of the bottom line.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's something that every business grapples with. In today's world, customer support, it's not just an afterthought, right?
Right.
It's really a core part of building loyalty and making sure your customers come back for more, turning them into advocates for your brand.
Absolutely.
And your customers, they expect to be able to get help. Not just help that solves their problem, but help that is fast and easy to access.
Yeah, they want it now and they want it simple.
Exactly. And the real challenge that this article points out is that delivering that kind of support consistently, like 24/7 with an in-house team, it can be so incredibly demanding.
Yeah, it can be a real strain on resources.
Absolutely.
And the article actually goes into some of the specific pain points that come with trying to keep everything internal. And right off the bat, the first thing they mention is just the cost of labor.
Yeah, that's a big one.
When you factor in salaries, benefits, all the stuff that goes into having employees, especially if you need to cover multiple time zones.
Yeah, around the clock.
I think it's expensive really quickly.
It adds up fast.
And they even cite this stat. It's crazy. 70% of companies, 70% apparently, outsource primarily to save money.
Wow, that is a big number. It really makes you think.
It does. It really does.
When you see a number like that, it really forces you to ask that key strategic question for any business.
What's that?
Is providing customer support, is it a core competency for you? Is it something that really sets you apart from the competition and needs to be tightly controlled, kept in-house?
Right.
Or could it potentially be a function where bringing in those specialized external partners, could they actually get you better results?
Right.
And maybe even free up your internal team so they can really zero in on other mission-critical areas.
It's almost like a strategic trade-off, right?
Exactly. And that 70% figure that we talked about, It seems to suggest that a lot of companies are seeing that value
in outsourcing,
in bringing in that outside expertise, at least for certain aspects of how they interact with their customers.
Yeah. And it's interesting, it's not just about those day-to-day labor costs either.
Yeah. No, absolutely not.
The article also brings up scaling, like how difficult it is to scale up your support team if you need to.
Yeah.
Just imagine, your business suddenly takes off, you have a viral moment, or maybe you have these predictable seasonal peaks where suddenly everyone needs support.
A holiday rush.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So trying to quickly grow your internal support team to meet that kind of demand can be a real nightmare. You're talking about hiring, onboarding, training.
Yeah. All of that takes so much time.
It does.
And resources.
Right. It's money. Yeah.
Exactly. It can be really, really inefficient to have all these extra staff when things are slow, or conversely, be scrambling to find people when things get busy.
Right. You're either overstaffed or understaffed.
Exactly. And that's a huge drain on resources.
It is.
And what's really fascinating to me is how outsourcing offers this built-in flexibility.
Oh, interesting.
These providers, they have the infrastructure. They have a large pool of talent.
Ready to go.
Ready to go, yeah. And they can basically expand or contract.
As needed.
As needed based on your needs. And that kind of elasticity is really, really hard to achieve if you're trying to do everything in-house.
It is. It is. And then there's the ongoing investment in keeping your team's knowledge up to date. Because customer support, it's not static.
It's always evolving.
It's always changing, right?
Okay.
Your products change, you roll out new features, new technologies come out, your support agents, they need to stay on top of all of it.
They've got to be in the know.
Yeah, and that continuous training,
Mm-hmm.
making sure everyone's up to speed on the latest and greatest,
Yeah.
from new product features to, CRM systems or whatever you're
The
using.
tools are always
The
changing.
tools are always changing. That's a constant expense, and it can be a pretty significant one.
It really can. And it builds on that point about the initial costs.
Right.
We also have to think about that continuous investment that's needed to keep an in-house team sharp, knowledgeable, really at the top of their game.
So it's not just the upfront costs, it's the ongoing maintenance.
Exactly. It's not just bringing them on board, it's making sure they stay experts.
Yeah. And we can't forget about the complexity of trying to provide support 24/7, especially if you've got customers all over the world.
Global support, yeah, that's a whole other ball game.
Suddenly you're dealing with time zones,
Yeah.
night shifts,
Mm-hmm.
and then you layer on top of that the need for multilingual support.
Oh, yeah, that adds a whole other layer of
Just
complexity.
this, right? So it just becomes this incredibly complex,
Logistically,
yeah, an expensive endeavor
definitely.
to try to manage all of that internally.
It can be really prohibitive for a lot of companies to do true 24/7 multilingual support all on their own.
And this is one of those areas where the article really highlights how outsourcing can be, they use the phrase game changer.
Yeah, I like that phrase, game changer.
Yeah. So let's dive into that. How exactly does outsourcing address all of these pain points that we've been talking about?
Okay, so let's start with the most obvious one, which is cost savings. The article mentions that you could potentially save, get this, up to 70% on labor and operational expenses.
Wow.
And especially if you're working with teams that are based overseas, offshore teams.
Yeah.
Think about it for a second. You're basically tapping into different labor markets and often places where the cost of living is lower,
Right.
which naturally means you're paying less in salaries and benefits.
It just makes sense, right?
Yeah. And beyond just that direct labor cost difference, you also might see savings in things like needing less physical office space,
Oh, interesting.
less investment in IT infrastructure specifically for your support team, maybe even lower recruiting costs.
Interesting. So it has this kind of ripple effect.
It does. Plus, you're taking a lot of the overhead that comes with running a physical support center. You're basically offloading that
Offloading it to the experts.
to the experts. Exactly.
70%, that's a huge difference
It's
potentially.
a big, big number.
Yeah. And it ties back to that stat we talked about earlier about cost reduction being the main reason so many companies are even thinking about outsourcing in the first place.
Right. It all comes back to that.
But it's not just about being cheaper, is it?
No, not at all.
The article also talks about the advantage of being able to work with experts,
Right.
people who are pre-trained.
Yes, and that is absolutely critical.
Why is that so important?
Okay, so these outsourcing firms, customer service is what they do. It's their bread and butter. Their agents are often specifically recruited and trained for this, for providing customer support.
They live and breathe customer support.
They live and breathe it. They come in with experience. They have established processes. They have this focus on customer relationship management that is just ingrained in what they do.
They hit the ground running.
They hit the ground running, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're not starting from scratch with hiring and training.
Right.
You're plugging into this existing group of skilled professionals.
So it's like instant expertise.
Yeah. It is. And you asked earlier how outsourcing addresses that training challenge. Well, this ready-made expertise is a huge part of the answer.
Makes sense. And it goes back to that, constant effort and expense of training and upskilling an internal team.
Totally. It can be so time-consuming
Heck yeah.
to keep everyone up to speed.
Yeah, it sounds like with outsourcing, you're getting this ready-made trained workforce.
You are, and that can be a huge advantage.
Absolutely. And then there's that scalability and flexibility that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
The article makes it sound like it's almost seamless to adjust to those peaks and valleys in demand.
Yeah, it's one of the big selling points of outsourcing.
Okay, so how does that actually work in practice?
So these outsourcing providers, they've got the infrastructure, they've got the staff.
Right.
They can quickly scale up if they need to. Let's say it's the holidays or you're launching a new product and suddenly everyone's got questions.
Right.
And then just as easily, they can scale back down when things quiet down.
When demand drops off.
Exactly. And that agility can save your business a ton of money.
It can.
And it can prevent those really frustrating times when you're understaffed.
Right.
And that can lead to a bad customer experience.
For sure. So if you find that your team is always stretched thin, especially during those busy times, this flexibility that comes with outsourcing could be a real game changer.
It really could be.
And this is probably pretty obvious, but 204/7 and multilingual coverage, that becomes much more achievable, right?
Absolutely. Instead of trying to set up your own support centers in different time zones and find and hire people who speak all these different languages.
Right, which is a huge task.
It's a huge, huge task.
You're basically tapping into this global network that the outsourcing provider has already set up.
Exactly, exactly. They've got support centers all over the world, strategically placed so that they can provide continuous coverage 24/7. And they have teams who are fluent in all sorts of languages, so you can take care of your diverse customer base without that huge investment and all the logistical headaches of trying to build it yourself.
That makes a lot of sense.
And this can have a really big impact on customer satisfaction and loyalty. The article emphasizes that.
Which is ultimately what it's all about, right?
Yeah, that's the end goal. Happy, loyal customers.
And there was this one point in the article that I found really insightful. It's this idea that outsourcing can free up your internal teams so they can really focus on those core business activities.
That's such a crucial point, and it often gets overlooked in these discussions.
Yeah, why is that so important?
Well, it's like, instead of your really valuable internal team, your best people,
Right.
getting bogged down with those routine support questions that come in all the time.
And the repetitive stuff.
Yeah, the stuff that anyone could handle with the right training.
Right.
They can instead focus their energy on the things that really move the needle for your business.
The things that make you unique.
And exactly, things like product development or, coming up with really innovative marketing strategies.
So it's about playing to your strengths, right?
Exactly. It's about optimizing how you use your resources.
Yeah.
And empowering your teams to really operate at their highest potential.
So when we talk about core competency, what we really mean is an activity that gives your business a real competitive edge. Something that's deeply integrated into your overall strategy.
Right. It's part of your DNA.
It's part of your DNA as a business.
And if customer support in its entirety isn't really that for you, then outsourcing can be a really smart move.
Yeah, it frees you up to focus on what matters.
Exactly.
Now, I'm sure some people listening are thinking, okay, this sounds pretty good, but how can I be sure that an outsourced team, are they really going to care about my customers?
Yeah, that's a natural concern.
Are they going to represent my brand the way I want them to? It's a valid question, right?
Absolutely. It's a question that comes up all the time, and the article actually does address it, which I think is really important.
Good.
Because maintaining quality and brand consistency is absolutely paramount. It's not negotiable. You can't just outsource and hope for the best. You have to be really strategic about it.
Yeah. So what are some of the key things that the article mentions in terms of ensuring quality?
Well, they talk a lot about comprehensive training, training the outsourced team on your products, on your brand values, on your specific way of doing things. You can't expect an outsourced team to represent you effectively if they don't really, really get your business and your customers.
If they don't understand what you're all about.
Yeah, and it goes beyond just product knowledge.
Right.
The best outsourcing partners, they really invest in understanding what your customer's journey is like, what your brand voice is, what your tone is. They often have these really sophisticated tools to monitor quality, and they have feedback loops in place, which can actually give you insights into areas where maybe your own internal processes could be improved.
Oh, interesting. So you can learn from them too.
You absolutely can, yeah. It's a two-way street.
And I really like the idea of dedicated teams.
Yeah, dedicated teams are really powerful.
Because then it's not just some random agent who's answering the phone.
Right.
It's a team who is specifically focused on your account.
Right. And over time, they develop that deeper understanding of your customers and your products.
They become experts in you.
They do. They do. And that kind of familiarity and that focused attention, it can really improve the quality and the consistency of the support that you're providing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It's all about building that relationship.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
The article also talks about the importance of SLAs, service level agreements.
Yeah, SLAs are critical.
For anyone who's not familiar with that term, could you just break down why they're so important when you're talking about outsourcing?
Sure. So SLAs are basically formal agreements that outline the standards of performance that you're expecting from that outsourced provider.
Huh.
They lay out specific metrics that can be measured.
Like what kinds of things?
Things like how quickly they respond to inquiries.
Okay, response time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How often they're able to resolve an issue on the first call, and customer satisfaction targets.
So you're setting clear benchmarks.
Exactly. And by setting those really clear and achievable SLAs, you're holding that outsourcing partner accountable.
You're holding their feet to the fire.
You are, and you're making sure that they meet your expectations for quality. It's not just a handshake agreement. It's a document that says, this is what we expect.
It's a written commitment.
It is.
It's about setting expectations up front.
Exactly.
And then you have a way to track their performance.
Exactly.
And then there's the ongoing piece of it, monitoring, making improvements, having those regular reports and feedback mechanism.
Oh, yeah, that's so important. Open communication is key. Regular performance reviews, making sure you have a clear view into what's happening with the support that's being provided.
Transparency, yeah.
Transparency, yes. And you need a really clear process for giving feedback to the provider and for addressing any issues that pop up along the way.
So it's not just setting it and forgetting it.
No, not at all. It's an ongoing relationship.
It's a partnership.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to see how technology is impacting all of this.
It really is. Technology is changing everything.
The article mentions how important omnichannel support is becoming.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
So for those listening who might not be totally up on that term, what is omnichannel support and why is it relevant here?
Okay, so omnichannel support, it's all about creating a seamless customer experience across all the different channels that they might use to reach out to you.
Right.
So whether they're calling you, sending an email, using that little chat box on your website, reaching out on social media, sending a text message.
Yeah, however they want to contact you.
Whatever their preferred way is, yeah. So these modern outsourcing providers, they're equipped to handle all those different channels.
They have to be.
They have to be. So they can make sure that your customers can get help however they want to.
Right.
And that the experience feels connected and consistent no matter which channel they choose.
It's all about that consistency.
Yeah. And it's important because customers today, they expect that.
They do. They expect to be able to reach you on any channel.
And they expect a consistent experience.
Yeah, for sure.
And the outsourcing providers have really stepped up to meet that challenge.
That's interesting. And then the article also talks about the rise of AI, artificial intelligence, tools like chatbots.
Oh, yeah. AI is a game changer in customer service.
Yeah. How so?
So these chatbots, they can handle a lot of those really routine questions, those simple inquiries, really quickly and efficiently.
Okay.
Which frees up your human agents, your human customer service reps.
Right.
To focus on those more complex or sensitive issues that really need that human touch.
Where empathy is important or problem solving.
Exactly. So it's kind of this hybrid approach.
The best of both worlds.
The best of both worlds, you've got the automation for the simple stuff.
Yeah.
And then you've got humans there for those situations that require a little more finesse.
Human touch. Yeah.
Exactly. And this can really speed up response times, make everything more efficient, and lead to a much better overall customer experience.
So everybody wins.
Everybody wins. Exactly.
That's great. The article also mentions how these outsourced teams, they can actually provide you with some really useful data analytics.
Oh, yeah. They're sitting on a gold mine of data.
They are, yeah.
Yeah.
How can that benefit a business?
So think about it. Your customer support team, whether they're in-house or outsourced, they're the ones interacting with your customers all day, every day.
They're on the front lines.
They're on the front lines, exactly. So they're gathering all of this information about what kinds of questions people are asking, what problems they're having, what kind of feedback they're giving.
Real-time feedback.
Real-time feedback, yeah. And if you analyze that data, you can get some really valuable insights into your products, your services, the overall experience that you're delivering.
So it's like turning customer support into a source of business intelligence.
Exactly. You're taking those interactions and turning them into actionable data.
That's really...
And you can use that information to identify areas where you need to improve to make better strategic decisions about your business.
That's amazing. And to kind of bring this all down to earth a little bit, the article gives a couple of real-world examples.
Yeah, they talk about e-commerce and tech startups.
Yeah, so fast-growing e-commerce companies and tech startups in particular. Why is outsourcing such a good fit for those kinds of businesses?
Okay, so with e-commerce, think about it. They need to be able to scale their support really quickly to handle all those changes in order volume.
Because it can fluctuate so much.
It can fluctuate wildly, especially during the holidays or if they're running a big promotion.
Makes sense.
And they might see a huge surge in customer questions, and outsourcing gives them that agility to keep up.
To maintain that high level of service.
Yeah, without getting totally overwhelmed.
Right.
And then for tech startups, particularly the ones that are really focused on developing new products, new technology, outsourcing that kind of basic tier 1 support.
Like the FAQs and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That frees up their engineers, their product teams, so they can stay focused on those core development activities and the more complex technical challenges.
So each team can focus on what they're best at?
Exactly. Exactly. And it's really a strategic allocation of resources, making
Uh-huh.
sure that your team is spending their time where they can have the biggest impact.
It's about maximizing efficiency.
It really is.
So if we were to kind of sum it all up for our listeners today, what would you say is the key takeaway from our deep dive into outsourcing customer support?
Okay, well, I think the main message here is that providing great customer support, I mean, truly high quality support,
Yeah.
it's essential. It's absolutely crucial if you want to be successful in business today.
It's non-negotiable.
It's non-negotiable, yeah. But it doesn't mean you have to have this massive, expensive in-house operation.
Right.
Outsourcing, if you do it strategically and you really carefully choose the right partner, it can be a really powerful way to elevate your service, provide that 24/7 support to your customers, and save a lot of money.
But that last part is really key, isn't it?
Yeah.
Choosing the right outsourcing partner. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation.
Absolutely not.
It sounds like you really need to do your research and your due diligence
You do.
to find a provider that really aligns with your needs and your values as a company.
Exactly. Because the success of that partnership, it really depends on choosing a provider who gets what you're trying to do,
Understands your goals.
understands your goals, prioritizes customer satisfaction just as much as you do,
Mm-hmm.
and really operates as a true extension of your internal team.
It's a relationship. It's not just a transaction.
It's a relationship. Yeah, it's a strategic alliance.
Yeah. So as you're thinking about all the demands on your resources, all the things that are pulling you in different directions,
Mm-hmm.
could a strategic partnership with an outsourcing provider be the answer? Could it free up your team so you can focus on what really makes your business tick
That's a question worth asking.
while still making sure that your customers feel taken care of?
Yeah.
It's definitely something to explore further, something
Yeah.
to think about in the context of your own business and your own situation.
It's a big decision, but it could have huge benefits.
It could. Well, thank you so much for diving deep with me on this.
My pleasure.
It's been a really enlightening conversation.
It's such an important topic, and it's one that I think a lot of businesses are grappling with right now.
They are. They are. And there are a lot of angles to consider. It's not a simple decision.
Definitely not. But if you approach it thoughtfully and strategically, outsourcing can be a really smart move.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
Likewise, it's always great to chat.
Always good to chat. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
We appreciate your time.
Keep those questions coming, and we'll see you next time.
Until next time.
Bye for now.
You've been listening to the Business Smart Session Podcast, proudly sponsored by Pyrus.co. Until next time, stay sharp, stay smart, and keep building something great.